color correction, curves, color wheels, and much. Let's move on. So, we have these boxes that are applied sequentially from top to bottom. Firstly, we have the basic correction, then creative, and finally it's curves. And we can disable them separately. Let's say I can disable everything I did in creative for the selected clip. The effects disappeared. Now let's analyze curves. There are two types of curves here. First one is RGB curves that many people know about because this tool is available in many programs. How does it work? In fact, if we look here, the gradient will be from black to white, and this graph will completely match the curve. Here we have the blackest pixels, and here we have the lightest ones. And the bend of this curve will determine the number of pixels. Here we respectively have the average value of pixels. We grab the center, put a point, and then bend it. Let's say I bend it. My middle became higher, black and light remained in their places. And in the same way, my curve is bent on limited scopes. Let's say we have a task to lower the blacks using curves. I can do it this way. The same task can be solved with different tools. I can also lower blacks with blacks in basic correction, but there are some restrictions here. There are much less restrictions with curves. We take it and lower it. If we need to raise the whites, so we'll take them and pull them here. If you raise them further, you will notice that there will be an overexposure and the detail will disappear. I return it back so the textures are back. We can increase the middle and lower the highlights. The curves tool is good for everything except for one thing. It can produce a certain number of artifacts with a slopey approach. For example, I slightly bent it here. So I have a bend here, where the pixels of different darkness are on the same level, and you can see uneven ugly artifacts on the edges of the head, all because of the fact that the chain of command of the dark is broken. The darker pixels were on a level with the lighter ones, and the border between them began to bend. Therefore, we need to work very carefully with the curves and avoid excessive bending that lead to artifacts. If we can't fix it, then we can take this technique to the extreme, to the point of absurdity. We can just take and put a few points, creating these curves and getting a surreal color. Or let's say here, we got it like not a negative and not a positive, and not clear what. Most importantly, these curves can be moved separately by color intervals. For example, we take a frame where we need to lower the green color. Select the green color of the curve and lower it. We can manually adjust the white balance or vice versa. We can bend the color channel in only one color. There is such an effect. It's a surreal purple-green cool color. Or like this, it's even more surreal. Also, if you have such a task, you can implement many ideas with curves. If you bring it to the point of absurdity, then you can make a transition. Let's edit a cut to the video, apply a transition and get this result. We often want to make one color change to another and the border or the color correction. This is the easiest way. Of course, we can make points and animate the parameters of these two frames. But in fact, the easiest way is to make a cut inside the frame and put cross dissolve. And this is the effect we can get. If that is that we were planning, we reset everything. Of course, it's much easier to explain the curves on this gradient, because they are completely identical. For example, as far as I bend red, its graph also bends on waveform RGB. It's the same with other colors. In this way, we can learn the nature of light and how it works. We can see a thin line on the saturation graph that is showing the color we have selected. And here we have the curve of the so-called skin tone. We'll talk about this later. So this is all about the classic RGB curve. The second thing that is here is the hue saturation curve. This is a fairly new feature for Premiere. So we have a circle of light and an internal curve that we can expand and narrow. The further away this curve is from the center, the greater the saturation of this color. Because there is one point here, but I pull it and the whole circle moves apart. But the point is that we can put a lot of points and lower some specific colors in this way. Let's say I can lower the green because it's the color of the grass, and I can move this color a little bit to get this effect. There is quite an interesting effect. We can easily extinguish all the other colors and get such an interesting effect. It's as if we were keying it and highlighting it with masks, but it's actually simpler. It separates in color from the entire background, and we can do it in 2 clicks. I really like this effect because of it. But if there were other objects and other people, then the task would be more complicated. We need to use the masks to separate them, etc. The graph itself also looks nice. Here we have a color, but here is not. Next, we have such a thing in the latest update. What is it? This three-way color corrector tool itself has been here all times. We divide our graph into 3 parts: shadows, midtones and highlights. We can separately increase the brightness of shadows, highlights and midtones and adjust their shades. Let's say that now I have highlights in red, midtones in green and shadows in blue. We get such an incomprehensible drawing. But the fact is that this tool works like this, and we can use it. But the main feature that appeared in the latest update is color match and wheels. How does match work? You need to enable compression view in order to enable this effect. We turn it on, and here we have a frame to which we activate our video. Let's say that this frame is located on the playhead, and this is frame to which we want to activate it. Let's try to activate this frame with this frame. We don't want to manually paint, but we want to see what it will do. And they can converge with each other. We can apply match. It analyzes and outputs the result. As for me, the result is very good. Firstly, we become close both in color and in the general atmosphere. Even if we look at the graphs, this is the graph of the left frame, and this is the graph of the right frame. They are basically the same. Therefore, it's very cool as a tool, because we have a huge amount of time. There is no need to equalize everything by eye, because we have a tool that will do everything for us. If this isn't the final result, then at least it's a good starting point to work with. It always works. Another thing is that I don't like this frame, because it's dark. Let's make it more fun a little. We added lights, lower the dark shades, adjust the exposure, and make it a little warmer. And then we will match them again. And the most beautiful thing is that we can reconfigure all this again. It's not the final result, that we can always correct. Let's say that before that there was a program like SpeedGrade that Adobe has bought and has integrated with Premiere, and it already had this function about 5 years ago. But there it was an absolute closed box. It did something and you couldn't correct the result in any way. And here it does all settings with these 3 sliders. This is a good tool that helps you save a lot of time.